All right, Tim Santoni here. Today we're profiling Bill White, Whitespace Advisors. Bill, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Tim.
Glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Well, okay. Again, Bill White, Whitespace Advisors. Whitespace is a commercial real estate advisory firm. I specialize in representing corporate office tenants in the marketplace for space. I do a lot of work with law firms, CPAs, advertising agencies, anybody who occupies a mid-rise, high-rise office building. Those are my clients.
Gotcha. And typically, what are the top 3 mistakes you usually see clients or prospective clients make when it comes to their commercial real estate?
Top 3, I would say that the number 1 mistake people make is underestimating the cost of tenant improvements. A lot of tenants are offered what we call a tenant improvement package from their landlord, and it sounds like a lot of money. So a 10,000 square foot office, they might receive a $20 square foot allowance. $200,000 sounds like a lot of money, and then when you get down the road, you realize it's a lot more, and by that time they've already signed a lease and it's too late. So that's a big one. Another big one is underestimating the value of having nice space. Employee engagement is a big problem, or I should say disengagement is a big problem right now, and a big part of that is environment. And a lot of my clients really get that, and some of my clients don't. And I have some clients that say, just give me the best possible deal and let me see how many people I can get in this space. And I have other clients who say, we really want a space that's going to work for our people. People are the number 1 thing. That's where it all starts. And that's probably the number 2 mistake. Number 3 is just probably glossing over some of the bigger items in the lease. Operating expenses, for example, is more than half of the rent of an office building is wrapped up in operating expenses, and if you don't negotiate those, you're missing out.
Gotcha. And I guess there's a lot of commercial real estate brokers and reps in Orange County. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, the one thing you wish that clients knew about hiring a tenant rep or working with someone like yourself, someone that maybe hasn't worked with someone like you before, the one thing that they should know.
Well, what they should know is that the conflict is real, and I know that's kind of a joke, the struggle is real, but the conflict of interest when working with a broker who has landlord representation relationships is real, and it was the reason I started my company. I was with Colliers International, great company, and it's a company that specializes in representing tenants and landlords, and I was representing Nationwide Insurance up in El Segundo. And Nationwide was renewing their lease. Grubb & Ellis was the listing broker on the building. I didn't think I had a conflict, and lo and behold, the owner of the El Segundo building also owned a building in Los Angeles that was represented by Colliers, and I received a call from one of our senior managers telling me to back off. And I realized then that the only way I could truly represent tenants was to be either at a company that had no landlord representation or starting my own company. So that's probably the thing that I wish people would really understand, is that this whole tenant representation thing that I always preach, it's real. And the reality is you never know what you potentially missed out on because everybody thinks they got a good deal.
Right. That's a good point. So tell us a little bit about why you got started in real estate. That's a great client story as to why you went on your own, and you tend to represent, obviously the tenants for that conflict reason. But why did you choose the commercial real estate field, and how did you get started? Why was that passion for you?
Well, it started when I was in college, and I needed to burn some electives, and someone suggested I take real estate. I was one of these guys who, a little strange in college, I wore slacks, sport coat, dress shoes, and one of my professors in real estate, it was real estate finance class, he asked me one day what I planned on doing, and I said, I don't know. And he said, you should check out commercial real estate. And I thought, okay. So that was really about it. This was 1991. I couldn't Google it. I went to the Yellow Pages. And I started looking at commercial real estate companies. I called all of them. I got interviews with CB, which then was Caldwell Banker, Grubb & Ellis, Cushman Wakefield, and the Sealy Company. And the Sealy Company was the one firm that was willing to put me in working with the other brokers from the very beginning. And I took the job with them, and the manager that hired me is still a good friend, and the rest is history.
So you're one of those people that went to school, figured out what you're going to do in school, and actually did that from the get-go.
I actually worked at the Sealy company while I was in school. I worked kind of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just ran odd, errands and odd jobs. And actually the reason I ended up doing office tenant representation was the gentleman that I ultimately was, that trained me. It's kind of more like a mentor or what do you call it? Not an internship, apprenticeship. We call it a runnership in the business, but the guy that I ran for, the reason I got into tenant rep was I used to go to the bank for him and deposit his checks, and I realized I'd like to be in this business.
You saw the numbers.
I saw the numbers
firsthand.
Awesome.
So for those people maybe that are getting into the industry or been in there a while, obviously you have a successful practice. Maybe give us maybe a couple ideas on things you've tried to grow your practice as you got started on your own and over the years as things have changed in the market, and kind of some strategies for growth.
Well, one of the things that I would tell people who are getting into the business is you never can stop prospecting. People don't like to hear it, but the reality is you always have to be looking for new business because things happen. I've had clients that I've had for a long time, and then say a CFO leaves, retires, new CFO comes in, or a company gets acquired, they have an existing relationship. You always have to be looking for new business. As far as growing the practice, when I started the company, I really wanted to be a solo for a long time. That was, I decided to be a solo. And for many reasons, more than we can get into on this interview, I have now seen the light, and I have decided to bring people on. As far as growing the practice, prospecting, networking, and really being the person in the marketplace that attracts people. It's hard to find people, there's no doubt about it, but if you're in the marketplace, you have a good reputation, you operate with integrity, people will want to work with you. So I would say that would be one of them.
So Bill, give me an example of one of your favorite client success stories, and tell me a little bit about that client.
Sure. Client that I was just visiting early in the week, United Collective, is an advertising agency in Huntington Beach. I started with them when they only had 4 people. It was the founder and his cousin and then 2 other employees, and we moved them from an executive suite actually where they had 1 office into about 3,000 square feet in Long Beach, and then grew from there into 12,000 square feet in Long Beach. And then ultimately we moved into a 42,000 square foot building in Huntington Beach, right across from the Huntington Beach Pier. What was unique and fun about that assignment was that they placed a high value on having great space. And the space we ultimately ended up taking was a converted movie theater. It was the Man 6 Theater at Huntington Beach, right across from the pier. And we leveled the space. We actually had, it was stadium style, so the floor wasn't flat. And they leveled the floors, punched in windows, put a mezzanine all the way around the space, full-size basketball court, batting cages, and locker rooms, as well as surfboard racks and bicycle racks for all the employees. So, that's one of those clients where they really place a high value on the space and on amenities for the employees, and that's been an exciting relationship. I've been doing their work for over 10 years, and I'm really proud of the work that they've done.
All right, so now we're going to get into the lightning round. So we're going to, these are the serious questions.
Okay.
All right, so coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee. Too much all day.
Cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs.
Dogs all the way. Favorite app?
Audible.
Audible, gotcha. So along that lines, what's the best book you've listened to on Audible in the last 12 months?
12 Rules for Life.
12 Rules for Life.
Jordan Peterson.
So when you're not consulting with your clients, what are you doing on the weekends, family?
Family. I've got 2 boys. Been married for 25 years this September, and
Nice.
I've got an 11-year-old and a 17-year-old. Keep me very busy. We go to the beach, we hang out, we just chill and watch movies on days that I'm not playing baseball, and on days that I do play baseball, that's a big part of my Sunday.
Yep.
So after church, 11 o'clock, head to the field. Our games always start at 1:30, home by 5, and then I recover from that for a few days.
Awesome. Well, Bill, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you making the time to
My
join the
pleasure.
show. And if you have any questions for Bill, leave them below in the comments. We'll talk soon. Thanks, bud.
Thank you.
Awesome.